Hello everyone, this is Bob Furlong, and this is an introduction to Flip 101. For those of you that are thinking about maybe flipping for the first time, I thought I'd go through my journey through my initial flipping, and hopefully you can maybe learn from my mistakes and get a few takeaways as well. A few things about me. I am a high school biology teacher at Otsego High School that is located in Ohio. Recently, our district, along with 6 others, spent 3 years, received a $900,000 grant to create online curriculum, which was followed by being one of 16 teachers in the state of Ohio in the Teacher Trailblazer program that did something similar, looking at creating some online content. In 2016, I was recognized by the Ohio School Board Association. And this year, I have been selected to receive the Outstanding Biology Teacher Award through the National Association of Biology Teachers. I have basically 3 learning targets in this video. One is to explore the benefits of flipped and blended learning. The other is to identify software and hardware that you might want to think about getting before you get started. And then lastly, how do you utilize your face-to-face time with your students? So let's start with some of the benefits of flipped and blended learning. Here we see Bloom's taxonomy going from remembering at the basic level all the way to creating at the top level. If we look at this area in this triangle as time spent in school, we could probably agree that the remembering and understanding is maybe in the past what we spent most of our time on. The applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, we really didn't spend a whole lot of time on. Now, before I go any further with this analogy that I'm about to show you, this was totally ripped off from John Bergman and Aaron Sams as I went to a conference that they were talking at. And one of the ideas that they had talked about is flip learning. You just kind of flip this upside down, where now you don't spend as much time doing the remembering and understanding, and you spend a lot of time creating and evaluating. But when you actually get into looking at, well, what does my classroom look like? This really isn't a very good indication of flipped learning either, because we don't spend most of our time creating and evaluating. It looks something more like this, where we spend a little bit of time remembering and understanding those DOK1 level skills. We don't spend a whole lot of time creating and evaluating, which would maybe be DOK4, but what we do is we spend a lot of time analyzing and applying. And if you are reading either your national standards or state standards, many of those standards are right in this analyzing and applying area, which is what makes, in my opinion, flipped learning so beneficial. Another way we can take a look at this is what we used to do in the individual space, maybe say things like homework, we now do in the group space, what we do in class. And what we used to do in the group space, what we did in class, we're now going to move to the individual space. I remember maybe about 8 or 9 years ago going to a conference, and this is the first time I ever heard of flipped learning. And all the person that was leading it was kept on saying was, well, you take the homework and you do that at school, and you take the schoolwork and you do that at home. And I remember thinking, like, how in the world can something like that work? I mean, if I normally am giving a 40-minute lecture in school, do I really expect the kids to watch a 40-minute lecture online? And what if a bunch of other classes did that? Well, I found out that that's not what really happens at all. But let's take a look at what does happen, in my opinion. This idea that in school, we used to spend a lot of time just giving notes. I spent a lot of time lecturing in my classes. And again, that's simply DOK1. Students are just writing down what I had in my PowerPoint into their notebook. And maybe we would do hands-on activities. We would be doing some labs, for instance, in my biology class. And then I say, okay, for homework, I want you to answer these questions where they're going to have to apply and analyze the data that they've collected. And that is really hard to do. So now, with flipped learning, at home they can do the easy stuff. They can watch a video, take notes, which then frees up class time to do those harder things, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating when I'm there with them. We're shifting that easy stuff off to home, doing the more difficult stuff in person. So a lot of times this might mean that they're going to have to watch some videos. Does it have to be a video? No. It could be a reading assignment. Maybe you just give them the PowerPoint of notes. You have to decide what works best for your classroom. If you are going to be making your own videos, you are going to need a little bit of hardware and some software. Do you have to make your own videos? No, there's plenty of videos online that's available to you as it is. I will say, however, that although I would not advocate totally using other people's videos, that you do want to use some of your own as well, because you are your student's teacher. And they like to see you in those videos, believe it or not, no matter how bad they are. And trust me, some of my videos can be very bad, like this one. All right, anyways, let me show you what I have for hardware. Besides, obviously, my computer, laptops work really well because they have a built-in webcam. If you're using a desktop, you would need to have a webcam. A few things that I had to purchase on my own, though. One, I needed a good lighting source. Now this is simply a desk lamp. I'm using it right now, and there's nothing special about this. It's just what I happen to have at home. Let me give you a little look. See, when I turn that off, it doesn't look nearly as good, does it? Actually, maybe it does look better because you can't see me. One of the things that, being a science person, that I found was very helpful was having some type of a writing tablet. If you are using PowerPoint, which I'm not using, you would see something down right around here that you can get the pen tool, and with one of these writing pads, then you can simply handwrite some stuff on here. So if I wanted to add something for the students to take notes on, I can include that. If I wanted to, say, put in some type of a equation, I can do that as well, much more easily than trying to have that pre-done in my PowerPoint, or to just use the mouse. For instance, here's me trying to use the mouse to write the same thing. Yeah, it doesn't look as good. I also have found that a USB microphone is handy. There you can see mine right here. Although for the most part, some of your newer laptops have a pretty good microphone built in. Oftentimes when you're watching a video, you don't think of sound unless it's really bad. And then videos can be difficult to watch. So invest in a USB microphone. Notice I didn't say a good one. You don't have to have the top of the line one. I think the one that I'm using right now is about $30. The writing tablet's about $35. And for the most part, that was all the equipment that I had to purchase. Software, you're going to need something in order to make your videos. I use something called ScreenFlow, which you can see in the video up above me. But there are others as well that you can use that are less expensive. Screencastify, Screencast-O-Matic are two very reasonably priced ones that you can use, but there's others that you might, if you're an Apple, you might be using something like Shomi or EduCreations. You could also go really inexpensive and say, you know what, I can just use my iPhone or a document camera, or maybe I just animate PowerPoint slides, or I can add audio to Google Slides and give out those slides in Google Classroom, for instance. So there's lots of different ways that you can do this. Some are free, some are inexpensive, some are a little bit more expensive. It just depends on how you want to make your videos. Again, I use ScreenFlow, so this is a screencast software. I put everything together into a slideshow like PowerPoint, and then I narrate the PowerPoint and put it all together to make the video. Once you have the videos made, you need a place to put them. So you can put them in YouTube, which is a great way to store your videos. What I do is I have all my videos on YouTube. They're free for anybody to watch. I have my students watch them on Edpuzzle, which does a couple of neat features for me. It will keep track of the students as they watch it. I can add questions to it. I'm sure there's going to be other sessions on how to use Edpuzzle. Now, Edpuzzle is free up to a certain number of videos, and then you would need to have the paid subscription. If you know that your school isn't going to be able to get the paid subscription, you can use Google Drive if you're a G Suite school, and that way you don't have to worry about getting around your school's YouTube block. I should add, Edpuzzle will also get around your school's YouTube block if you have that as well. So then what are you going to do with all this face-to-face time? You see, when I started flipping, I took all of my lectures, which were already on PowerPoint. So this is one of the beauties of doing, say, a screencast is I didn't have to create all of these new videos, all these new PowerPoints. I had them already from my previous years when I would just stand up in front of the class and lecture. And originally I thought that, you know what, normally I know this takes me 30, 35 minutes to get through in a class. But when I started doing the videos, I found that, I could do this in about 8 to 10 minutes. Because I can talk really fast, kids can pause, they can get their notes down, they can rewatch something. I always say that back when I was lecturing in front of the class, I could only go as fast as my slowest writer. Well, now I can talk as fast as I want to because kids do have that ability to pause, to give them a chance to write down their notes, to maybe, if they miss something, rewind that again and watch that 10 seconds over again, whatever the case may be. I found that in that first year, I had moved 50 lectures over onto video, which gave me an extra 50 class periods. And now I had all this extra time. And I'm like, well, how am I going to be able to fill all this time? Well, there's lots of things that you can do. Now, again, I'm in a science class, so some of these things that I have not done, but some of my colleagues have. But it gives maybe you a chance to practice concepts, to review. You can do, I like to do what are called collaborative worksheets where they get together into groups and they work together. Of course, in a science class, they're going to be doing experiments. They're going to be analyzing those results. We do a lot of modeling in my class. We're going to start to apply the content that they learned in the video. Maybe they're going to be making something. They can create something. You can have time for that project-based learning activity that you've always wanted to do. Have your kids blog. Do Socrative seminars. Start using some of those Marzano strategies that you've read about. In English and foreign language classes, they can start developing fluency skills. Maybe have them do some peer reviews. Give them a chance to do some real research, create something, have a discussion, debate, analyze data. There's so many things that you can do with this face-to-face time. For instance, I remember when I would spend time in my class talking about photosynthesis. It's a big biological concept. And we would have several days of notes, and then we would do a lab. But because of the amount of time that I had, I was going to spend a good week on photosynthesis, but I only had time for like 1 or 2, maybe 2 days of lab. Now, I spend that whole week doing lab where they are designing an experiment and they're collecting data and then they're analyzing that data and then they're creating a website in order for them to let other people read what they've done, making their audience, instead of an audience of one, me, it's making it a global audience. In other words, we spend our time in class in that analyzing and applying area of Bloom's taxonomy. Right where our standards are is what we do in class. So we spend lots of time building models, looking at data, analyzing it, applying. Yeah, we're doing some creating. We are doing some evaluation. They have to know some of the knowledge and understanding in order to be able to get all that stuff done. So that $64,000 question is, well, what are we going to do next year? What's next year going to look like? I don't know. Every school is going to be different when we go back in the fall. It's not going to be like it has been. Are we going to see the kids every day like we used to? Are we going to see them once a week? Are we going to see them for a whole week, once a month? What I think many of us are going to be looking at is some type of a hybrid situation where they're going to be in class some days and doing some online learning another day, which makes what we do in class that much more important. We have to make sure that we're getting to those higher level skills, that we're pushing these real easy things like taking notes and have them doing that at home, so that when they get into the classroom and we have that very small amount of valuable time with them, that we can really help them develop a deeper understanding for what the standards are trying to get at. Because what makes the flip work so well are the relationships that you're going to be developing with your students. You're going to have the chance to meet with each student every day in every class. And especially this upcoming school year, that's going to be more important than ever. Probably one of the most important years that we develop these relationships with our students. So please check the schedule. Join me for our Zoom meeting. I will be happy to go more in depth on some specifics that you might have, some questions that you still might have, and give Flip a try. You might not have any choice. Thanks for watching.